Thanks. Hi, good evening. Happy summer evening in June. This is Dr. Maria Sophocles, the host of Gynecology, welcoming you to another episode during Pride Month. And we've had such great episodes this month, hearing from a surgeon who does top surgery for trans women, and we've had great chat with a health advocacy lawyer for Blue Cross Blue Shield who is gay herself and who has had an enormously rich career advocating for gay rights and is still fighting battles every day as a lawyer for Blue Cross Blue Shield. And this week we're going really local, which is super important. We have Alex Aikens, who's the director of programming at HiTops, HITOPS, a nonprofit organization serving New Jersey and located literally right down the street from my office and my home in Princeton, New Jersey. HiTops has been around for more than 30 years. It was started in 1988. And when probably many of you were not even born. It focuses on adolescent sexual health education and LGBTQ plus support through a wide variety of free, you heard me right, free programming, including weekly support groups for LGBTQ youth and their parents, not necessarily together. And they do so many things. It's hard to actually even list them all, but we're going to get into them tonight. It does professional development training for teachers and school administration. I hope, Alex, you'll be willing to go back to the history a little bit so we can talk about the history of how HiTops was born. And they even have things as practical as access for clothing and hygiene products for youth who need them. I can't tell you what a critically important part of I think adolescent healthcare HiTops plays in our community, and it could easily go under the radar if you don't need it, or you don't think you need it, or you think you don't know anyone who needs it. But I would bet my whole house that everyone watching, with or without knowing, knows someone who could benefit from HiTops services. It was a safe haven for me when I moved here because I arrived in 2007 as a 40-something-year-old mother of four with no ability to practice medicine and no ability to really know. I didn't know anyone in the community. I had no friends or family here. And all I knew was that I really cared about wanting to serve women and youth who had health needs. So I found my way to HiTops, and they were gracious enough to let me be a part of their organization when they didn't really even know me. And it always meant so much to me that they welcomed me into their family. And I spent several years serving in different roles there. And my practice, Women's Healthcare of Princeton, which has now been around for about 15 years, and we have 22,000 patients, nonetheless has had a long bond with HiTops, sometimes formally and sometimes informally, but we are constantly making sure our staff and patients know about HiTops so that they can use its resources. That's a super long introduction to Alex Aikens, and I'm sorry to turn the camera on me, but I just wanted to share that I love this organization. I care deeply about it, and I think we are such a unique community to have this right here. And I hope people near and far will take the time to look it up, to know about its services, to give. Money is always good, to donate money or consider volunteering. But Alex, I'll let you, towards the end of the program, make a pitch for that and say what you think, how you think people who want to get involved and could help could best help, and what are the best ways. Before we get to that, I want you to just tell everybody like the basics. How does HiTops function in the Princeton community and outside of Princeton? What do they do?
Absolutely. And just before I start, Dr. Sophocles, thank you so much for bringing us on here, for bringing me on here. We appreciate it so much. I think that you mentioned about your experience joining HiTops as a brand new physician and saying, they didn't know me from anybody, but they brought me in. And that is so integral to who HiTops is. We care so much about being part of the community. Something that I let people know all the time is that one of the things that really excites me about HiTops is how much we are youth-led. So we work with, as you said, adolescents. We provide sexual health education and LGBTQ plus support to adolescents 11 to 24 years old, right? Not only that, but we involve them in the process. So regularly we're checking in with them. We're being like, what works? What doesn't work? What do you need in your life? What can we provide for you? So we care so much about making sure that not only are we providing a really relevant service to our community, but that our community has an active involvement in deciding what we do year over year. So it was just so exciting to hear you talk about how you were welcomed in, because that is so much our ethos.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting to hear. And as you
Well,
mentioned, oh, sorry.
no, I was going to say, well, I mean, I think the key point though is that it's not a bunch of adults saying, "We know the answers, come to us." It's you all training teens to be,
Oh, I think,
you know,
oh, well, there we go. You're back.
sorry
You're
about
back.
that.
No, go for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the peer education part is just critical. And so, at least what I found is that teens tend to turn off adult led education, or at least be a little skeptical of it. You're 45. How can you possibly know what it feels like to be me and not be able to come out to my family or my friends, or to be a football player on the football team and to be hiding this and not be able to come out? Whereas
Exactly.
if it's the teen council, they can maybe relate to someone. In fact, I want you to explain what the teen council is, and so people understand that.
Absolutely. No, I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to just like adolescent development and where they're at, right? Like, are we allowed to curse on here? Tell me before.
Yeah, hell
Okay.
yeah.
I work with teens all the time, so I'm very used to it. But so I'll just say, like, teenagers, they know when adults are bullshitting them, right?
Yeah,
Like, they know when you are coming at them and prescribing things to them and telling them what they need to hear, right? And they don't
yeah,
receive that as well, right? But what works is when you actually, like, as an adult, take the time to step back and ask them, hey, what matters to you? Like, what are you feeling right now? What do you need right now? So exactly, like the experiences that you talked about, like, I'm on the football team, I'm queer or I'm questioning, and I don't know how to talk about this in a world
mhm,
of like
yeah,
prescribed masculinity. What do I do? Right. And
right.
they look to their peers. They want to know, because those are the people that they trust. Those are people that they feel are authentic to them.
Yeah,
Or they will look to adults who will not just tell them what to do, who will care about them as an individual. And so that's really, really central and important to all of the programming
yeah,
that we do here at HiTops. Is we got to put the youth voice first. We got to ask them what it is that
right.
they want, what they're thinking, and what they need. And that's what really drives everything that we do.
And that seems so obvious, and yet, so many teens end up not having anyone to talk to, so they're looking to social media, or they're looking to the
Yes.
internet, or some of them are sitting in a doctor's office stiff as a board like this, and you try to approach them as a physician. Is there anything you want to talk about? Are you having any sexual issues? Are you questioning? Nope, fine. No, they're just a
Yeah, they don't know.
clinical
Can I trust you?
setting.
Can I not trust you? I don't know. Yeah, they
No, a
won't.
clinical setting is so sterile, and
True.
it's so not what they need. I mean, we try, but it's so great to have this rather homey, casual kind of environment where you all can put them at ease, and so it's priceless, priceless.
Yeah.
So walk me through someone. Like, someone walks in the door, and what do you know, they found you online. What do you
Yeah.
say? What do you do?
So I will start right off by saying, so HiTops was around, just like you said. We've been around for over 30 years. Started in 1987. Um, we were always about sexual health. We were always about women and adolescent health, right? We actually had a midwifery for a minute.
Family born, right?
Yes,
Family born.
thank you. Yes, exactly. Um, and I'll be honest, I actually didn't even know that midwifery was pronounced that way until I got this job. So this
I
is a
know.
learning
I
moment
know.
for me. But we will still have folks who come up to us, who come up to our door and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I was born here," or "Oh my
Oh my
goodness,
God.
like my mom like came here for classes." So that's so exciting. Just again, another like connection to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
community. And then in the 90s, the early 90s, actually, HiTops realized that part of their adolescent and women's health initiative was that they really needed to pay attention to LGBTQ plus issues, right?
Right.
And so we were one of the very first to offer support groups for LGBTQ plus youth. Now, there were support groups that were going on for adults in the queer community, but not for young people, right? That was a pretty
Yeah.
hot topic, right? And HiTops said, no, you know what? They deserve to be empowered. They deserve to know about their community and about themselves. And so they started the First and Third, which was our first LGBTQ plus support group. It was called First and Third because it met on the first and the third Saturdays of the month.
Cute.
So
Yeah.
very creative name.
Right.
But it stuck with
1997.
us.
That's when that started, right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Holding you to the
Uh,
timeline. Yeah, and they started focusing more on homophobia reduction and
absolutely.
really, I think, a pivot not away from adolescent health or pregnancy prevention or whatever, but an inclusion, right? Spreading the net
Yes.
more broadly. Hmm.
Exactly. I think a lot of folks, they hear about LGBTQ plus issues in the media and they think that it's so separate from them, and what I'm talking about is like cisgender heterosexual individuals. They'll be like, oh, queer issues not really having anything to do with me, right?
Hmm.
But the fact of the matter is everybody has a sexual orientation. Everybody has a gender identity. Everybody has a gender expression. Everybody is going to go through puberty, right? And so
Yeah.
this isn't
And not
just a
everybody's
queer
sexual
issue.
identity matches their gender identity. In fact,
Yes.
let's pause for two
Yeah.
seconds
Sorry. Let's
and
go back.
and spell those three out. This is where I always wish we had like little diagrams or like a little video that you and I could draw with a pen, like gender. So write out
Yes.
say those three things slowly and clearly, because what's so obvious to you and most people, there may be someone watching who's like, wait, what did she say? So just do that part slowly.
Absolutely. Okay, so when we're talking about SOGI. That's how we call it. SOGI identities. SOGIE. What we're talking about is sexual orientation, right? And so that's your romantic, that's your sexual attraction to another person, right? When we're talking about your gender identity, right? That is your innate sense of your own gender. Like, what do you really go towards? That could be something as binary as male and female. You could feel more masculine, you could feel more
Yeah.
feminine.
What do you see yourself as? I always say to
Like,
patients,
what
when you look in the
resonates with
mirror, do you say, I'm a man, I see myself as a man, or I see myself as a woman? Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, and that's a
Yeah.
binary, that would be very binary feelings, right? You may look in the mirror and you're like, I feel so aligned with femininity, like that's me, or so aligned with masculinity, right?
Mhm.
Or you may
Or
not feel that
neutral.
way at all.
Mhm.
Exactly. You may be like, actually, neither,
Yeah.
or I don't relate to gender at all, agender, right? So that's
Mhm.
kind of your gender identity is where that lies. And then you have your gender expression, and that's the way that you communicate to the world your gender identity or the way that you feel, right? So you may have somebody who feels themselves that they have a gender identity of being very masculine, right? They feel themselves to be very male, right? But maybe for any number of reasons, they don't want to express that. They don't want to dress in a masculine way, that could be because they were assigned female at birth. That could be because they just don't really jive with like more masculine clothing, right? There's a number of reasons. But when we talk about your expression, we're talking about the things that like communicate on the outside, that sense of gender. We're talking about like, your haircut, your clothing, the way that you style your face, things like that. So
Yeah,
those are very,
what
very
you're
important
doing
things.
to express your gender identity, really, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
So I
the
like, yeah, Soji's great. It's easy to remember.
Exactly. And I think that a lot of folks assume that if you're talking about Soji, you are only talking about queer individuals or the queer community. And the fact of the matter is, every single person has a Soji identity, right?
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
sexual orientation may be heterosexual. That's a sexual orientation,
right,
you
right,
know?
right.
You
Sexual orientation isn't something reserved for homosexual people, it's for all people. So, yeah,
exactly.
I
Yep.
know, I know. And I think
So
it's
it's
really
like a
great for,
continuation. It's a
yeah.
continuation of that adolescent sexual health education.
Thank you for backing up and breaking down Soji so that we,
Of course.
everybody can get it, because guess what? Some of the people watching this are parents of teens who are questioning, or they're not sure, and they feel hamstrung, like I don't even know how to talk to my child. And so I think the
Happens
more
a
we
lot.
can empower adults who may have grown up in a generation when this was not talked about,
Right.
the more we can foster robust discussion and productive discussion. I mean, sometimes I try to talk to my children, and I'm so far off. They're like, I'm down with that, and I'm like, are you up for that? And they're like, I'm down for that. And I'm like, I'm up for that, or whatever, And I'm like, God, I'm totally, And they're like, are you born in the 18th century or something? So I think these simple terms, what's so common to you and to the
Right.
people who work at HiTops and to the people who come, to their parents, might be literally words that have never come out of their mouth. So
Exactly.
I
No,
think
it
it's
happens all
important.
the time. And I do want to say, I know we're going to get into like the different programs that we offer, but like
Yeah.
I think that that's such a great point that you make,
Hmm.
because it's true. And I hope that any parents who are listening and watching, that
Hmm.
they know that there is that compassion and understanding, not just at this with the staff at HiTops. Like we know that that's true. That's part of the journey, right? But also in the young people themselves. Like they understand that they are growing up in a different world than their parents were, and that their
Hmm.
parents come at it from a different understanding than they do, right? And I
Right.
think there's a lot more patience and a lot more grace from our young people than I think a lot of parents worry that there is. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. And I know, over the course of HiTops history, they've been so instrumental in kind of giving birth, in giving birth to all these programs. I think, Team Pep, for example. Team Pep is a statewide peer leadership program where, there's actual training and education programs, and I think it's just been great. But teen council is what I kind of want you to talk about, and that's because that's something within High Top. So go ahead. I don't want to
yeah,
steal your
absolutely.
thunder.
No, and you started off great, right? So Teen Pep is this wonderful program that actually is involved with the state as well, so the state of New Jersey. And it allows these peer leaders, these young people, to actually learn about sexual health education topics, and then to go into schools and teach their peers about them, right? So we kind of talked about this already, that like young people, they listen more to their peers usually than they will to adults, right? That's kind of a norm for adolescent development, right? And so it really resonates when you can get a young person, a 17-year-old, to walk in to a class full of 15-year-olds and say, hey, this is how you can protect yourself from STDs. This is how you can practice consent. This is how you can have good communicative relationships, healthy relationships, right? It resonates. And so from that program, HiTops was actually given the opportunity to have a teen council. And so the teen council is a group of adolescent young folks who come together, and they get to kind of like do a little bit of that trial of new curriculum.
Yeah.
What might we add to that teen pep curriculum, right?
Yeah.
And so getting to really try that out, which is really wonderful for our young people, and a really excellent program. And this has started to evolve in recent years to other forms of leadership. Like, how can we give young people the opportunity to really define some of this curriculum, some of the topics that they want to talk about and speak about and educate other young people about. And so really, really excited that actually now, coming up in this new year, so our fiscal year starts on July 1st. Coming up in this new year, we're going to have 2 leadership programs. So we're going to have our Trans Youth Advisory Board, and we're going to have our Young Adult Spot. And would love to talk more and more about those as we go on. But both of them looking at, they include adolescents who are doing that. They're meeting, they're thinking about things. Yeah, they're leaders. They're like, what do our peers need to know? And how can we communicate it and educate them and go into all of these schools and spaces and empower them with knowledge?
I would really, a little pivot for a second and digress and come right back. I recently learned about a clinic in Haddonfield, New Jersey, which is specifically for LGBTQ care. And it's multiple providers. It's run by Jefferson, which is, one of Philadelphia's great medical school systems. And you probably know about it, but if you don't, I'd love to connect you with them, because it could be a great resource for people saying, thank you, HiTops, for this and this and this, but I kind of want to find a clinician who's really LGBTQ friendly. And gosh, I hope there'll be more. But for now, there's that one in Haddonfield, and there's the website, the Jefferson Health website, and it's just, I mean, what a dream, to be to have a place where you feel at home and you don't feel judged and you don't feel like someone thinks you're strange or diseased, or someone doesn't say, well, I don't know how to take care of you.
Or that you have to explain to your own provider who you are and the realities of yourself. Yep.
Yeah. I told this story a couple of weeks ago. I had a trans woman who came to see me, and she said, you are the 5th gynecologist I've seen. And she said, the last one said to me, I don't treat people with your disease. I mean, it was just one word that was off, but it was a really bad word choice. And this woman literally just said, I think I'm done, and got up and left. And
good for her for that.
Yeah, of course.
I'm glad she found you.
But of course, not to defend that doctor, because that's horrible. There is no defense other than to say doctors of a certain generation were simply never trained in this. It was don't ask, don't tell, just don't ask, and then no one needs to tell you about it. And of course, that's not the standard today. And doctors being trained today do have some training in how to just even use the proper words, how to recognize clues in what a patient might be saying and read between the lines, because it's hard for patients to even say this, again, in a cold, sterile clinical situation. So I just wanted to pivot really quickly to that, make a plug for that Jefferson Clinic, because I'm so grateful that Jefferson is progressive enough to think to spend money and time and effort to create something like that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I'll even jump off of something that you had said, where there was an entire generation that, the rule of thumb was, don't ask. And that was very progressive for its time, right? Don't ask, very progressive for its time. But unfortunately, what that means is the kind of parentheses, right, is don't ask, assume, right? And that doesn't work for everybody. And so now we're definitely starting to move into this area where it's like, no, do ask, ask about pronouns, ask about sexual orientation, gender identity, make a affirming environment where you can ask those things and you can invite an answer. So great to hear that this is such a wonderful resource, Jefferson, with affirming providers. That's excellent. And we'll actually add them to our affirming providers list, because we've got quite a few of them. So.
So pretty cool. So what else would you like to tell me about the closet? We have to hit at some point.
Of course. No, of course.
So go ahead and tell us, what is the closet?
Let's see here. Oh my gosh. The closet. The closet is really feels like my baby. So I started at HiTops in 2016, actually as a volunteer. So I have been a volunteer. I have been a contract staff. I've been been a coordinator, a manager, a senior program manager, now the director. So I feel very, very fortunate that I've gotten to see a lot of the different roles that HiTops has, right? And I can say, like, when I had my very, very first Trans Youth Forum, that the group of Trans Youth Advisory Board members, which I know we haven't talked about it quite yet, but the Trans Youth Advisory Board is a group of about 10 to 15 young people, 11 to 24 years old. They're all trans, non-binary identified. They work with us to put on this forum every year. And this forum is a big event. It is a celebratory educational event that we have these guest speakers. We've had Alok, we've had Skylar Baylor, we've had all these wonderful, trans icons who come. They are interviewed live by our Trans Youth Advisory Board members. Huge event. I know. I'm getting a little bit off track, but I promise this is relevant. It's an incredible event that I just adore. Is very, very close to my heart. And the very first Trans Youth Forum that I got to actually oversee, I was talking to the Trans Youth Advisory Board, and I was like, what do you want to see? What should we include here? Not just our speakers, our workshops, but, what else can we do? What did trans youth need? And they overwhelmingly said, can we please have a clothing exchange? Can we bring all of the clothing that we have in our closets that does not fit our gender expression, our gender identity anymore, but that may fit somebody else's? And can we bring it and just offer it for free? You've got all of these young people who, for any number of reasons, maybe their parents aren't affirming, or maybe, they don't have the financial ability to go out and get a new wardrobe that really fits their gender identity, their gender expression, right? It leaves them limited. They're just like, how can I truly express who I am, right? And so if we have a clothing exchange, maybe, I was assigned female at birth, but now I identify as male. Can I bring in all of my femme clothing? And so that somebody who's assigned male at birth, but now identifies in a very feminine way, they can take my clothing, right? And then it's free. It's an exchange. Can we do that? And these young people, they were so adamant about it. And I was like, of course, because that's what HiTops is, right? We're youth-led. We got to follow what the young people want. That was something they wanted. And so that's how it started. It was actually just a table at the Trans Youth Forum where we just had a whole bunch of clothing. And it was like, just take whatever you can, right? And that was only about 4 years ago. And since then, it has grown exponentially. So now the closet is this free resource year round. You don't have to wait for the Trans Youth Forum. We have it all year long. You can get trans affirming clothing. You can get undergarments. You can get binders. You can get packers. You can get hygiene products. You can get sexual health products. You can get makeup. You can get shoes.
Wow.
Just any number of things, completely free to young people in New Jersey.
That was so cool. That's just
cool. So excited about it. I love how much it's grown. And I can say,
the simplicity of it too, just the simplicity of it,
And that young people created, they really created it. They knew what each other needed.
Yeah.
And they built it with us. And I love them so much for that. And I can say, another thing that I'm so proud of with the closet is that when COVID hit, when the pandemic got really strong, we had to close our doors. We couldn't bring the public in anymore because the kids used to be able to just come in and just go into the closet and take clothes and take what they needed, right?
Right.
When that happened, we were like, look, this need still exists, even if kids can't come here. So what are we going to do? And again, we talked to those young people and they're like, what works for you? And what they said is can we figure out a way to mail these packages? Can we ship it, right? And so what we did is we developed this way to ask the young person, okay, what is a safe name to ship to? Because your parents may not use the name that you use, right? What's a safe name? What's a safe address? Okay, what is the style that you're into? Femme, masculine, andro. Do you like dark clothing? Do you like light clothing? What do you like, right? And so now we have a full list. You could just check off your boxes, and we personally will curate outfits and pieces for you and mail them off to you. And that makes me so excited that we can offer that to young folks in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is awesome. That's just awesome. What's your favorite thing? What's your favorite program at HiTops?
That is such a big
Maybe that's
question.
unfair. Maybe that's unfair. You're clearly passionate about all this stuff.
I am. You know, I love how much the young people are involved because they have innate ownership, you know. So like we've got our LGBTQ plus support groups, right? We've got 4 of them. There are 3 that are specifically about youth. So we've got an LGBTQ plus support group called Banner that is just for our middle school age, 11 to 13. The support first and third, the one that I talked about earlier, that's your 14 to 18s. We have T Connect, which again came from the young people. So we were talking to first and third kids and we were like, what can we do? What can we, provide for you? And they were like, we're really feeling like we need a group that is specifically for trans and non-binary identities that talk about the gender journey. And it was like, great, let's make it. So we made T Connect, right? And then we talked to T Connect, those kiddos, and we were like, what do you need? And they're like, gosh, we really need a group for our parents, the parents of trans and non-binary youth. So they have a place to go and talk. So we're not always the educators. We're like, boom, you got it. We're making it. So then we made Transparenthood, right? So now we have these 4 incredible weekly support groups for youth, for trans and non-binary youth, and for the parents of trans and non-binary youth. And that just makes me so happy that it's like, that came from them. That's what they wanted. And you can see it in them. They offer this peer support to each other. They're so happy to be there. Not only do they have these weekly groups, but we have ongoing group chats with all of our members. So they have access to us, to each other, to resources throughout the week when they're not meeting. And so that it just makes me happy to see that engagement. Like I said, the Trans Youth Forum I love because you've got our Trans Youth Advisory Board members who work so hard to create this event with us. We've got our faith initiative, where we're collecting stories of folks who have these lived experiences at the intersection of being faith and queer identified, right? That's extremely poignant. So we have a wonderful gallery of those. So I really can't pick a favorite because they just all make me very, very happy. And because all of them really come from the community as opposed to us telling the community what it needs.
That is, I mean, I don't think we can put a price on this. This is like, it's a service that it's so needed, and it's sort of falling between, there's cracks between clinical medicine and psychology and therapy. There's so many people who, I don't need a psychiatrist. I don't need a psychologist. I don't need a therapist. I
need access to community. I need community support.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that so clearly. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to hear from you and hear what you thought. Do you have any questions for me about our practice and what any thoughts on what we can do, as we're sort of the premier adolescent GYN practice in the country in New Jersey. And so we get a lot of teens. We get teens who are questioning. We get teens who are sure of their SOG or whatever. But what would be, I guess, the best way is just to give them the HiTops website and say, hey, check it out and go.
Well, absolutely. And that's talking about your patients for sure. Right. So your adolescents are coming to you, which, by the way, congratulations, because they clearly feel comfortable being able to come and be honest about their identities. I think that's wonderful. Yeah. And then I would say, just like for your own practice, at HiTops, we also offer a lot of professional development. We offer, the ABCs program. We talk to not only schools, staff, administrators, but also medical professionals about, SOGI, about what these young people are talking about. We allow folks to just be honest and vulnerable and say, you know what, I don't have all of the information. And sometimes, actually oftentimes, adults, practitioners, they will feel, I'm almost concerned to make a move if it's not the right move, if it's not the perfect move. If I don't do it perfectly, I'm a little concerned about doing it at all, right? And that's such a common and valid experience. And we can speak to that and we can talk through that. And to help practitioners, teachers, administrators understand, like, it's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You can just give it a shot, Um,
I like that. It's reassuring and it's simple and it's clear and it's honest,
yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, you know, often there's a lot of back and forth, and I share a lot of patient stuff and da da. But I honestly, my hope for tonight was that you could come on and just really spread the word about High Tops and make sure that our viewers know about it, know some of its key programs. Now we know your favorites. Learn about the closet. And again, I've been a big fan since about 2007, but the history goes way back in time. In fact, one of the family born midwives came to work at Princeton Gynecology many years ago. She just retired
Really?
during COVID. So we would have people come in and say, "My mom knows you because I was born through family born." So it was so
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, that makes me smile so much every time I hear those stories. That's
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. It was pretty neat. Anyway, I'm going to say goodnight and wrap this up.
Okay.
We sometimes talk for half an hour, we sometimes talk for an hour, but the goal is to get you on board and get HiTops there. And, I hope we can find a time again on gynecology to do another one. And ideally, I'd love even to have teen council members come on,
Absolutely.
or if they feel comfortable, or people so that we could have a little dialogue, we could get from them what they do. We'll prep a little for it, and we'll promote it a bit in the community, and that way we really can get some mileage from this collaboration and from the time you've taken tonight to do this. I really truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Um, our Oh gosh, I guess this is probably the last of our Pride Month episodes, but we'll see you guys in July. We have some exciting other topics coming up on infertility and other things. And this is Dr. Maria Sophocles saying thank you so much to Alex Aikens from High Tops, and we'll hope to see you again. And we'll make it an annual thing, I promise. Okay.
Sounds
All
great.
right. Take care. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.